How many of you have tried and failed at speaking and storytelling in the past? We totally get it, and we're here to tell you that it's not your fault. Now, who amongst you have ever thought that you must have experienced a catastrophic event to be able to tell a compelling story? Is that you? Well, we're also here to tell you that that's not true. You see, we believe with the right skills, anyone could do this, including you. And how many of you believe that you can succeed with speaking and storytelling or even developing a presentation that would allow you to generate business without being perfect? I know. Well, you see, we believe with the right skills, anyone can do this. Welcome to Unleash the Power of Your Story, and I am your host for today's training, Taria Hodge. Now, before we get started, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for investing in your success, because you could have been anywhere at this time, but you have chosen to spend the time here learning things that you would be able to implement in your business right away. So the goal of this masterclass and our time together, we are here to help coaches, consultants, and course creators share their authentic message in the marketplace. So over the next 90 minutes or so, our commitment is to help you believe that speaking and storytelling is the key to turning your story, skills, and expertise into a message that gets you recognized, hired, and paid what you're worth. We're also going to introduce you to our proprietary freestyle 5-step speaker playbook that will make it simple for you to achieve these results. Now, here's what we'll cover in our time today. So the goal of this training is to show you how to develop the posture and confidence that gets you recognized and recognized each time you take the stage. Number 2, how to capture and engage an audience so you will walk away with appointments and bookings. And how many of you would love that? And then finally, we're going to show you how to speak to attract your divine client and have them see you as the expert. And also, if you stick with us at the end, we have an exclusive invitation for those of you who will be ready to take the next step. Now, and this is for you. So let me just share with you, who is this for? So this training is for you if you are a coach out there and you want to be seen as an expert. This training is also for you if you're an author and you have the desire to speak and sell more of your books. This training is also specifically designed for those of you who are consultants and you want to speak at companies and get more bookings at conferences. And also, this training is for you if you are a trainer like myself who wants their training to be more engaging. Now, without any further ado, I have the pleasure to introduce to you today our trainer. The woman I have the privilege to introduce, she's an author, she's an inspirational speaker, and she's also a master trainer who has shared the stage with the likes of Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Irvin Magic Johnson, and even Lisa Nichols. Now, I'm going to tell you what I love about her is how she keeps us all on track with mindset and personal development. Please help me welcome to the stage the Mindset Mastery Mentor, my Mindset Mastery Mentor, Suzanne Hard.
Hey, Tria, how are you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful, and I'm super excited for today's training. And I know with us working together, this is one of the things that we have decided that definitely we see a lot of people in the marketplace definitely need it. So I am super excited. How about you?
You know what? I'm always excited to speak on training and speaking and taking the stage. I think that when a person is able to command the stage, it gives them access to just a new level of possibility in their business and in their career. So we are really going to give someone just this key skill that I think is so underused by entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. So I'm excited as well.
All right.
So I want everybody who's listening to take a look at this picture. And I want you to imagine walking into a room with this size of an audience. And the reason I'm sharing that is because one day I walked into a room just like this. It was at the very beginning of my speaker career, and I was still working with my speaker coach, and he had this way of surprising me in order to grow me. And so I walk into the room and I'm a little nervous and a little excited, as I always get before I speak. I scan the room and I'm like, whoa, it's packed. And I walk up to my coach, David, and he's looking at me. And I know, when you know something's about to happen. And he goes, Suzanne? I go, yes. And he goes, I've been thinking your speaking has improved tremendously. Your presentations are always on point. You're able to give information that people can follow. You're dynamic, but there's something missing. And I'm my brain's kind of running, what could be missing? And he can see that I'm not sure. And he says, what's missing, Suzanne, is you. And I go, me? Now I'm thinking, I'm here. I'm going to take the stage. How could I be missing? And he says, well, when you present, people know all the success you've had. Yeah. They know the awards you've won. They know how you're doing in your business, but they don't know you. Oh. And he says, today I want you to tell them your story, the story. And I look at him and I'm sure he sees terror on my face. And I say, my story. And he goes, yeah. And I'm thinking, you want me to tell the story of being physically exhausted and financially upside down? You want me to tell the story about like all the things that have happened to me? And he goes, yes, Suzanne, I want you to tell the story. So the one thing about me that you'll learn is I'm coachable. And I trust David, so I know there's a lesson in here for me. So when they call my name, I take a deep breath. I walk to the front of the stage. I plant my feet. I scan the audience. And I ask this question. How many of you have been in a situation where the pain of where you are is so great that anywhere might be better than this? Well, for me, that was a very unique day in my life. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs at work, 4 stairs to be exact. And I didn't have the energy to climb 4 steps. I can't tell you how embarrassed I was because I was the manager of a crisis team. We saw 150 women a day and we provided counseling and support, and I was in charge. But the truth was, I felt like I was in crisis. If you looked at me the wrong way, I didn't know if I wanted to cry or jump across my desk and shake you. My emotions were all over the place. I had mental fog. I was exhausted. And I really didn't like what I was doing anymore. What most people at work didn't know, my secret shame was that I had been going back and forth to the doctor because it didn't matter how much I slept. I just never woke up feeling rested. I never woke up feeling good. At home, we were financially upside down. My husband at the time, we were not getting along. We were arguing and fighting. And life just seemed like this couldn't be it. I wanted more, but I was afraid to do the things. I was afraid to take the action that would get me more. So that day, as had been happening over the past few months, I took myself to the doctor. And as I sat there and he'd run some blood tests, he had gotten them back. And he said, Suzanne, there's nothing wrong with you. I looked at him and I got that feeling, that rage, because I knew there was something wrong. When you know that there's something not right, there's something not right. How can he tell me there's nothing wrong? Then my doctor said the words that changed everything to me. He looked at me and he said, Suzanne, hon, you're healthy, but you're not well. My mind was racing at that point because I didn't really compute. I looked at him, I said, how could I be healthy but not well? He said, well, your blood work says you're healthy. You're physically, you look fine. He goes, but the way you're going through life, the stress you're under, the hours you're working, the lack of sleep, you're not emotionally well. Then he said to me, if you continue like this, you're not going to make it. Whoa. I remember as he said it, the tears just flooded. And I don't mean like little tears. I mean like that uncontrollable cry that you have a hard time breathing and a hard time composing yourself. I was doing that right there in his office. And why? Because he was telling me the truth. And I knew it, but I was just too afraid to do something. That day, I left his office and I went home and I cried some more. And then I started to contemplate. I knew he was right. And I started to ask God to just guide me and send me something, send me an answer, do something, because this cannot be my life. Well, literally 2 days later, I got a call from a friend, Susan. And Susan called me and she was so excited. She was like, Suzanne, I had found a company that's going to change our lives. We're going to join it. We're going to improve our health. We're going to make money. We're just going to create our own freedom. I was looking at through my phone going, what on earth is wrong with her? And she said, yes. And I realized she was talking about a network marketing company. I was so appalled. All I kept thinking is, you want me to become the Avon lady? You want me to sell Tupperware? Oh gosh, no. And I hung up the phone. Before I hung up, I said, my life is fine, Susan. This is not for me. I'm okay. But Susan knew. She knew I wasn't telling the truth. The next day, she called me again. More information, more excitement, jumping through the phone. And again, I said, no, I'm fine, not for me. The next day, she called me again, more information, excitement. I was getting frustrated because she wouldn't take no for an answer. Susan called me 7 days straight. That's intentional. On the 7th day, she called with Deborah Kay. Deborah Kay was a mutual friend of ours that when I knew her, she was retired at 40. I didn't know anybody who had retired at 40. She was living the life. What was she doing on the phone? Deborah said, Suzanne, I've come out of retirement to build this company. Susan and I are going to do it, and we're going to do it with you or without you. We'd rather do it up to you, to do it with you. It's up to you. And she said, I'm going to build this to 6 figures and beyond. Are you coming or not? At that moment, all I could think of was, what if this is it? What if this is the thing I've been asking for? What if they do this and I miss out? So I decided to say yes. I jumped on the website, looked at everything, placed my order, and a few days later, a brown box arrived on my doorstep. This is what I wanted you to really get. Sometimes the miracle you're looking for doesn't come in the package you expect. Mine came in a brown box on my doorstep with a program that totally transformed my health. I had more energy. I had more mental focus. I felt amazing. And then as I began to share it, it totally changed my financial health. I went from physically exhausted and financially upside down to financially right side up and eventually financially free. I didn't think it was possible, and it happened rapidly, but not rapidly enough. You know, when I first started my journey, I thought I had every skill needed. I was a trainer. I liked people. People liked me. I knew how to talk, but it didn't happen that way. It took time and it grew me. It stretched me, but eventually it happened. As I stood there on the stage that day and I told my story, what I realized was the audience began to lean in. It was like people had stopped breathing and they were so focused on me. I had never experienced that before. It was the most amazing thing. It was like the distance between me and the audience just got smaller and smaller until I felt like I could touch them. That day when I left the stage, I was so nervous and I felt so naked because I told more than I should have shared. I told my truth. And when I left the stage, I was about to say to myself, I'm never doing that again because I felt so exposed. Then the woman in the red dress swaggered up to me. I will never forget her. She had tears streaming down her face, and all I could think as she walked up was, what have I done? Oh my gosh, what have I done? And she looked at me and she said, thank you. She said, thank you for sharing your story. Before you shared, I was so frustrated. I'm in a similar situation and I didn't think there was an answer. You showed me there was an answer. Another person walked up to me and said, oh my gosh, I have been trying and I was about to give up. And your story and all you went through to get to where you want, I have hope now. I know I can do this. But what really touched me were the people who looked like me. People came up to me and said, I didn't know you existed. I didn't know people like us could have success in this company. And they began to be hopeful. In that moment, I understood why David wanted me to share my story. I understood the power of story. So what we're going to share with you over the next hour is the power that is in your story and what you need to know to tell a compelling story and why exactly it works. So Sharia, you think they're ready?
I know they're ready.
All right. So first I want to introduce you to Sarita. And Sarita came to an event just like you're at, and she heard my story and she saw me speak. When I was done, she came up to me and she said, oh my gosh, I don't know how I ended up in this room, but I just ended up here. And she said, as I listened to you, I knew I was supposed to work with you. As we began to work, I watched this woman transform. As we began to work on her story, I knew that her story would touch the lives of people who were suffering with addictions and recovery and on their road to recovery. Sabrina said, as a result of working with Suzanne, my journey surviving the struggle came to life through the power of telling my story. Suzanne has an extraordinary way with words which helped me produce a captivating and emotional story. Sarita is now a confident speaker who travels globally, sharing her story and the struggles she faced while when addicted to drugs. She says, I highly recommend Suzanne to help individuals profoundly share their story. So we're going to show you how to we're going to give you an insight into how to profoundly share your story. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is managing the energy in the room. Now, you notice when I started my story, I said I walked to the front of the stage, I planted my feet, I scanned the audience. That's a really specific technique. And then as I scanned them, I connected. What I was looking for was those beautiful people in the audience. You know, those people that are smiling, those people that look excited to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to connect with their energies. Tari is one of those people. And then I went silent and I sat there and I did the pause. Now you might be wondering, what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for everyone in the audience to stop talking and for the energy in the room to shift. And when that happens, I ask my very first question, or I go right into my story. What it does is it commands the room. And what it teaches the audience is I'm not going to talk when you're talking. You see, as speakers and trainers, one of our key things is to learn techniques that help you manage the energy in the room. And so one of the things we show people as they tell their story and as they take their stage, how to not only manage your energy, but manage the energy in the room. So let's go into secret number one. And secret number one is how to develop the posture and confidence that gets you recognized each and every time you take the stage. Now, I want you to think about this. If you have spoken before, or if you think of speaking, when are you the most nervous?
Ooh,
right? For most of us, we're the most nervous just before we take the stage.
yep.
Heart is racing, you're sweating, your head is pounding, all those things. There's a little bit of anxiety, there's excitement, there's nervousness. That's what happens to almost everyone. And Sharia, does it go away?
No, it doesn't.
No.
I still feel it every single time.
What you want to learn is how to manage that and how to have a way to help you feel confident. So, what we teach is our freestyle 10-step template. It is 10 steps that show you exactly what to do from the moment you're introduced to the moment you leave the stage. It tells you how to walk to the stage, where to stand, what to do when you get there, how to open your talk, when to tell your story, when to teach, how to close off your story, what's the last thing you need to do when you leave the stage. It is a paint by number template that shows speakers exactly what they need to do to connect and inspire their audience. Now, it's a talk structure. It's a system. It's a way of talking. What gives it power is what we call practice, drill, and rehearse. So when you get access to the talk structure, you don't just use it the day before you're going to speak. You're going to PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse. Think about it. Every elite athlete, performer, actor, PDRs, they practice, drill, and rehearse. Think of the Michael Jordans of the world who gets to the gym before everybody, takes more shots than everybody, practices longer than everybody. And when he gets to the court, everything seems seamless. He doesn't think it's part of him. Think of watching a professional piano player play, how they just move and sway with the music. Why? Because they've practiced and drilled and did all those scales and all those things that piano players do. So when they take the stage, they don't have to think. Think of a premier ballerina. And ballerinas go through the hardest training and the hardest conditioning. But you know what they look like when they're on stage? They look like they're floating. They look so graceful and strong. Yeah. And then I want you to think of a chess player. They say that master chess players drill and drill all these different moves, all these different plays, so that when they see a board, they don't really have to think through all things. It's instinctual. Why? Because they practice, drilled, and rehearsed. Well, true speakers and true trainers don't just speak when they're hired. They PDR so that the talk template that we're talking about becomes part of them. So when they take the stage, they know exactly what to do. It becomes instinctual. Now, this is what I want you to think about. This structure is like the lines on a basketball court. It's like the games of any sport. You notice that everyone who plays a sport, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They know the rules of engagement. But I want you to look at this court. Do you see the lines? No, they're kind of faded, aren't they?
Yeah.
But interestingly, every player knows exactly what to do. Your talk template works the same way. You're going to hold on to it and you're going to see the lines and you're going to know each step. But then when you take the stage, you'll know exactly what to do. No one will see the lines. No one will see what you're doing, but it will guide you. It will make what you do easy. Now, some of you might be thinking, I don't understand how speaking and storytelling will work for what I do and work for me. I totally get it. But we're going to continue to answer these questions because I'm going to ask Taria, who is a social media strategist, how storytelling has worked not only for her in building her confidence, but for her business.
Suzanne, let me tell you, I remember the first time I was asked to share my story. And all I remember hearing were the words, Taria didn't share her story. And I immediately became terrified and I wanted to disappear. And the thing that was echoing in my mind was my story. No one really wants to hear my story. So you see, the thought of being open and vulnerable absolutely paralyzed me. So what I'm going to do for our super achievers is kind of set the stage on how all of this took place. So I was at a speaker training program, one of those 4-day speaker training program. The ones where you have the workbooks, you have the big binder, you have everything that you need to run a successful speaking business in a box. Yeah, one of those trainings. And I spent 4 days learning the ins and outs, the technicalities of learning how to run a speaking business. So on day 4, when the host asked everyone to take the stage and share the story, I frantically looked through my paperwork. There was nowhere speaking, storytelling, that was nowhere on the syllabus. Where did this come from? Taria didn't have a clue. And so what I did what any other smart entrepreneur would do. I slid to the back of the room and took the seat next to the door.
Oh
I'm
no.
going to tell you, I almost got away with it. But there's always that one person, there's always that one person who is going to do a good job of calling you out. And then I heard the words, Taria didn't share her story. And so I remember reluctantly making my way to the front of the room. And I turned around and I faced the audience of about 40 people. And as I opened up my mouth to speak, instead of words coming out, tears started to stream down my face. Can you say embarrassing? Embarrassing. I stood in the room of about 40 people and cried. So you see, during the course of those 4 days, I didn't actually learn how to speak. And what that did for me was solidify in my mind that I was destined to be the behind the scenes girl. And so there's a stat that I want to share with our audience today. And the stat says 70% of Americans who give presentations agree that presentation skills are critical to their success. So what I didn't have and what I didn't know at the time, that there's a secret sauce to doing this. So,
Yeah.
Suzanne, where were you at that time? Well, I can't blame you because I didn't meet you as yet. So, you see, I didn't have a structure nor a template that would allow me to show up on stage confidently and share my message. You see, I was that person at that time who, in order to speak, in order to train, I needed a lot of time, like 6 months precisely, to be able to put myself together and tell my story. Because the thing that was underlying is that I was doubting my ability. So when I got introduced to the structure and the template, what it did for me, it gave me the confidence to take the stage at a moment's notice. Now, I'm going to share with our audience today, our super achievers, there was another interesting thing that came about because of this. Now, Suzanne mentioned that I am a social media strategist. What I found, the structure and the template, what it gave me the opportunity to do was show up and shine on social media. I found it easier to write social media content. Now, how many of you out there are struggling writing your content? My lives became more engaging. And most importantly, the people who I know that I'm called to serve started to find me. Now, every single day, I wake up excited and energized because my business is filled with my divine clients. So, how many of you out there have that desire to fill your business with your perfect clients? And if you do, that's the reason why we're here, to share with you that it's possible for you as well.
So let's talk about secret number 2. And secret number 2 is about how to capture and engage an audience so you walk away with appointments and bookings. Would that be fun?
Oh yeah, that's what it's
Right.
all about.
That's what it's about. So look at these 2 people. And how many of you would like the audience to be leaning in and that engaged? Like they're watching a movie, but they're actually listening to you do a presentation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something? Well, actually, there's a way to make that happen. And it is by telling what we like to call your brand story. It is telling a story. And you might be like, why a story? You want to learn how to tell a story that actually plays like a movie, that carries people on a journey, and they get so engrossed that they feel like they're present with you. Why does that work? Because your brand story doesn't just tell people what you do, your brand story tells the audience who you are, and most importantly, why your business exists. Your brand story, a story does something that nothing I know does. So let's go into this a little deeper. So, why do movies work? Why do we love movies? Well, I know for myself, I love movies because they transport me. They take me on a journey. Do they take you on a journey,
Oh,
Taria?
yeah, of course.
Absolutely. I love movies because it always makes me think of my mother. Because when my mother's watching a movie, she's so engrossed that she's yelling at the TV and she's dodging things and she's doing all these movements because she's so connected to what's happening. Tyria, do you have a like, do you get like so engrossed with the characters that you're just like, I
Oh,
feel like you know them?
man, I do. And sometimes I even find myself rooting for the bad guys.
Oh my gosh. There's a movie I watched where they rob the banks, and I am like, okay, so Money Heist, that series, loved it. Those were the bank robbers. We knew they were robbing, they were doing something wrong. But just because how they introduced us to the characters and how they laid the plot out, I was like, go get that money, rob that. It was crazy. But that's what stories do.
Yes.
They create this emotional connection. So we want to tell you a little bit of why. So one of my favorite movies is A Pursuit of Happiness. And there's a scene in the movie where the gentleman who's played by Will Smith is locked in a bathroom with his son. And he's got his foot up against the door and he's crying as he's holding his son because they're homeless and they have nowhere to go. But he's in pursuit of a bigger dream. He wants to learn, a new craft. And so he's going on the journey. But in that scene, I feel so connected to what's going on. I feel so much compassion to him. It totally moves me. And it connects me to the times in my life where I was afraid of losing what I had. I was afraid of not being enough. When I was financially upside down and physically exhausted and managing the drop-in center, I worked with homeless people. And that whole connection of what happens when life doesn't go the way you wanted, I felt so connected to it. But that's why movies work. Movies take us on a journey, and they take us on a journey where if life gets out of control, we kind of feel like we're going to bottom out. But the people who keep moving, they come out the other side and they inspire us. That's the reason we like movies. That's the reason we like stories, because every story has a plot and a scene that takes us somewhere. So many of you might be thinking, I'm not a very good speaker. I'm not funny. I'm not engaging. Well, I'm not particularly funny either, but when I get into story, it brings out a part of me that doesn't exist when I'm just presenting. When I start to tell a story, I embody the story and it connects people to a place in me that's otherwise not available when I'm just delivering content. So there's a reason why that happens. This is the key thing as to why stories are so compelling. Stories have great themes. And you might be wondering, Suzanne, what is a great theme? A great theme is something that we all connect to, no matter where we live on the planet, no matter how old or young we are, no matter what language we speak, culture, race we are, ethnicity, gender, there are universal themes that we connect with. How many of you have been in love, want to fall in love, or just love something? Yes, Tria's in love right now. She's engaged. So she's like, ooh, right? How many of you have lost somebody through death or you've lost something. See, we've all experienced death and loss. We've all experienced love. How about good versus evil? Every fairy tale, every story that we talk about, there's a good versus evil. There's a villain. We understand that. A coming of age story. These are the stories when someone knows that they have a greater gift inside them and they're evolving and they're becoming their higher self. We identify with that, and it always inspires us when we see someone doing it. Power and prejudice. We know when there's injustice. We know when people aren't being treated fairly. And this is one of the themes that ignites people and causes them to act. And then, of course, there's survival, whether it's survival of an illness, survival of a plane crash. We all have seen the movie when the person's surviving on the desert island and they're fighting all of nature and the wilderness in order to survive. You see, what's beautiful about great themes is they have one big common theme, which is courage. And we as people admire people who exhibit courage, who do the impossible, who believe in more, who decide to do something different. You see, the reason stories work is stories create the context for your content to land. What do I mean by context? Your story creates the environment to which your presentation will be now given. It creates the backdrop. When I told the story of my coach having me tell the story and tell my story for the first time, it was because I wasn't as connected to the audience as he thought I was. I created the context for the teachings we're about to give you, the environment for your listening, for the content that we're now giving you to land more purposefully. But stories also create connection. And you see, connection creates the know, like, and trust for presentations to happen. Because when we feel connected to someone, when we feel that they're like us, we are more likely to listen to what they have to say. So, Sharia, I want you to talk a little bit about going a little deeper around connection and why it works when we're speaking on big stages, but also why it works on social media.
Yeah. So it's one of the biggest questions that I get all the time. Like, how do I effectively do social media? So if you're out there and you're asking yourself that question, what's the secret to doing social media effectively for my business? I'm here to tell you. So one of the things in working with Suzanne that came up for me, my big aha moment, is when you said, Suzanne, your presentation should play like a movie, or your talk should play like a movie. And then it dawned on me, I was like, wow, so does your social media. Your social media is actually that movie that takes your audience on the journey of transformation. So what I realized that this is the place where our brand story comes to life. It's the number one way for us to keep our audience engaged and take them on a journey with you. Now, I love what it is that you just shared, that it's not about content, it's about the context, because this is one of the things that we've all been taught in marketing. I'm pretty sure everyone who's on here, most people on here have probably heard it. Content is king. Now, I want you to consider this. If content is king, take a look at context as queen. And if you've ever played chess, you know the queen is the most powerful person on the board. And so what I've learned is that this has become the difference between inspirational social media and intentional social media. So as you take a look at your social media, be intentional about the content that you create by giving it context, that place for the content that you're sharing, the lessons that you're sharing to land. Now, also, this is another interesting thing that you always say, Suzanne, and I really want everyone on here to get this. People must buy you before they buy from you. So another thing that we've been taught is that social media is that place where we could show up and we could position our programs and our services. How many in our products? How many people out there look at social media like this? Now, what I found is that most people are out there simply just hawking their wares on social media, just posting everything. This is what I do, buy from me. Now, I love what you're sharing because I know we all have amazing products and services, but what's missing is that people first have to buy us before they buy from us. So it's all about establishing that like, know, and trust factor. And there's no better way for you to do that than through story.
You know, Tria, this is so, so key and important. And I always tell people that, you know, they say always be selling, always be closing.
Mhm.
And and most people think of it as selling as push, 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 right? And and when I really understood the power of story, it was attract, attract, attract.
Mhm.
And so for me, when I take the stage or I open up my camera, I go, I am the first sale. People must buy me before they buy from me, before I start delivering my content. And so I tell my story, and you know, and I know the minute you got bought, right? The minute that the audience leans in, or the people who are supposed to be your people, when they decide, they're like, oh my gosh, this person, I like her, I know her, she knows me, she understands me.
You create that
I am my
connection.
first sale. And so when we're talking about stories, stories create a particular context where people get to know the person who's presenting. They get to know the journey they've been on, and it does something very special because we want to know that the person we're going to engage with not only has book knowledge, but has life knowledge, it has experience. And that's what this does. You want to talk about Claudia?
Oh, yes, I would love to talk about Claudia. So, this is a beautiful Claudia Odeja. And one of the things that Claudia gave a testimony, she says, this program helped me realize the power of my story and how it could help many women. Most importantly, when I unpacked my story, I discovered who I really am and how much I'm destined to accomplish. Now, let me just share with our super achievers. I remember when Claudia came to us, and Claudia had an idea or a thought of what she thought her story was and what she was supposed to be sharing with her audience. And we actually watched her work through the process and realized that the story that she was originally telling wasn't actually the story. It was a deeper story. And I remember the first time I heard her share that story on our Unleash the Power of the Story, I instantly felt a deeper connection with Claudia. And I'm here to say, like, that's the power of story. And I know that she speaks, she trains, and she empowers other women just like her. She have found her tribe.
You know, what's really interesting, I never forget that day because it was the first time that we'd ever heard Claudia tell her full story, like all put together. We'd heard practices and all the stuff
Mhm.
that people do in the practice group. And I remember leaning in, and it was because she told the story with such genuineness, but there was a gentleness to her. There was a reflectiveness to her. And we were all just so compelled. And I remember everyone that was listening, this was their first time being exposed to one of our students. They were like, she learned this in how long? Yeah. But Claudia did the practice, drill, and rehearse. So just so you all know. So, secret number 3, how to speak to attract your divine clients and get paid what you're worth. So, you know, one of the really cool things about speaking and taking the stage or flipping open your camera and going out on social media is it takes you from one to one to many to one. And what better way to be able to attract the people that you know you're called to serve? For us, it's attracting those super achievers that are up to big things. How do they find us? How do they know that we are their mentors and They are our people. Well, it is through speaking, but also through how you tell the story as we're talking. So this is the interesting thing about what storytelling does. It defines your emotional brand. And you might be sitting here going, what is the emotional brand? It's always like, so this is the thing. We hear about psychographics and demographics, right? Demographics, where does someone live, how old they are, all those different things. Psychographics is what they believe, kind of the things they do, all those different things. Psychographics, however, create a sense of belonging. And why people do certain things is they want to be part of a community where they feel they belong. However, psychographics is still pretty broad. When we come to what we call our emotional brand occurs through stories and language. And it is the language you'd use that evokes certain emotions that have people go, what did you just say? Oh my gosh, you're talking to me. Because when we tell certain stories and we use certain language, it touches people in the deepest way. And it creates a deeper sense of belonging because it creates an emotional connection. It creates a knowing. And what you want is you want to be able to put content and stories into the world that has your person, your divine client say, she's talking to me. He's talking to me. He knows me. He understands what I'm going through. She understands what I'm going through. The heart and soul of your divine client. Think about that for a moment. Imagine being that connected. So why does it work? We all think that it's the stories of, how amazing I am, everything I've accomplished. Oh, I am so fantastic. That's not the story that works. It is a story where life has come down your street, knocked you on your back, ran you over, stomped on your chest, and you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to get back up. I don't know how I survived. But somehow you find the courage to get back up. And on your way back up, you pick up all these lessons that you integrate into your life. You see, we don't inspire people by the successes we have. We inspire them by telling them where we began and what we went through and how we had to evolve and who we had to become in order to create the success. You see, it's the distance between where you were and where you are today that makes all the difference in your audience. Why is this so important? Because the person who's sitting in the audience isn't sitting in your success. They're sitting where you were, and they're sitting in those places and spaces in between on the journey, feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, sitting there with life sitting on their chest, and they're waiting for certain answer. And you notice, like, when you hear someone share something and you're in that silent, private place where you're suffering or you're frustrated, and someone tells you a story and you go, oh my gosh, that's me. And suddenly you don't feel alone. Suddenly you feel connected. That's the stories we want to tell. You see, I remember when Dr. Venus Opal Reese said that your mess creates your message. It stopped me in my tracks because it's so true. The messiest moments in our lives, if we go through the journey of transformation, it creates the most powerful messages. It creates messages that inspire people. It creates messages that have people go, I want to follow you. It creates messages that turn you into a leader. You see, it's not just our strength that powers our story. It's our willingness to be authentic and vulnerable. It's our vulnerability that powers our story. So you might be wondering, well, how do I know what story to tell? I have so many stories, and you probably do. And there's a story for almost everything you need to teach. And then there's an overarching story that tells the world why your business exists and who you are. So let me tell you what you want to look for as you choose your story. The first thing you want to look for is a story in which you underwent an a paradigm shift. And what I mean by a paradigm shift is you started your journey looking at life one way, but you ended it looking at life a totally different way. How you see the world has changed. It's a story where something happened that so disrupted you that you chose to learn some lessons. These lessons are clear, and these lessons have changed the way you walk through the world. And these are lessons that you're now ready to teach other people because they have so touched you. And the story created a transformation. It turned you into a different person. You found the next best level of yourself. It tapped into something inside of you and you birthed a new part of yourself. You became the butterfly from the caterpillar. Those are the stories you want to tell. That's why stories work, because the person you're called to serve, the person who's your right person, is also going through a process of transformation. But they need answers, they need support, and they want to know that you have been on a similar journey. That's what your stories do. You see, the story has you move from victim to hero. And as you sit in the hero, you choose to be the rescue in your life, in your situation. And in doing so, you learn the lessons. You see, the person who wants to work with you wants to be the hero in their life. They want to be their own rescue, but they're waiting for someone to show them. You see, you don't come to your clients as the hero. You create the space for them to be the hero, but you have now moved from the hero to the guide. So some people say, I don't know how to be seen as an authority or an expert, right? It is when you become that guide, and there's a way of becoming the guide. First is you have moved through the stage of being hero. You've been your own rescue. You've learned some lessons, and now you have something to teach. See, your story, my story, earns you the right to be the guide. You see, the story you tell someone and the journey you take them to, and when you move from the hero to the teacher, the mentor, the guide, is you're creating the space and you're saying, I'm going to show you how to be the rescue in your life. I'm going to guide you. Why? Because I've been on this journey. I have learned some lessons, and now I'm here to show you. I'm going to shine a light on some things that you may not see because they were once things that I didn't see. This is how you earn the right to be the guide. So, Tria, why do stories allow us to show up and shine?
Oh man, because they allow us to become the beacon and attract our divine clients in the marketplace. Now, I like to put this as the difference between finding our ideal clients and being found by our divine clients. Now, once again, this is another thing that I've heard in marketing since I've been in this space, that we have to go out there and we have to find our ideal clients. Just think about that for a word. You have to go out there and prospect and find your ideal clients. Doesn't that sound like a whole lot of work and arduous, and something that's just terrifying, that you have to just get out there and prospect every single day in the cold market of social media? It's a cold world out there in these social media streets. But stories allow us to show up in our authentic, divine way that allows us to attract our people, to us. And when you think about it, who wouldn't want that? One of the things we've been taught, and you mentioned it earlier, that we have to take a look at the demographics and the psychographics for our people. And I remember looking at who was the demographics of my people. Women between the ages of 35 and 45. They live in the suburbs. They have 2.5 kids. And I remember 2.5 kids. What in the world is 2.5 of a kid? I have 3 whole kids. I don't know what 2.5 of a kid is. But when I started to embrace this concept, what it allowed me to do is go deeper and share those authentic struggles that I've experienced on the journey as an entrepreneur. And then people started to raise their hand and say, oh my gosh, me too. And I started to build and connect and attract those people into my business.
It's so powerful, and the opportunity to show up and totally shine. I was talking to a client recently on the phone, and we were talking about this whole thing about networking and being on social media and all those different things. And I said to her, you know, rather than think about it as networking, I want you to think of it as relationship building.
Mhm.
And that your goal is to get to know someone. And
Right.
when we get to know someone, how we get to know someone, how we got to know each other the first time
Right.
is we shared stories.
Yes.
And we shared stories. I shared my story, you shared your story, you shared another story, I shared a story. And as we began to share stories, we found the commonalities, we found the connections. I remember you saying, I need to work with you. And at that point, you had no idea what I did, but you knew that there was something about what we were sharing, the connection, that I was the person.
Yeah.
And it was stories. And when you think about it, when we go into networking, we get weird and we go into presentation mode with people who don't want to be presented to. When we go into build relationship, we
Right.
go into sharing, and we share authentic stories, we share authentic struggles, we connect. And it's when you create those deeper relationships that people want to know more. And this is really what the power of stories do, and learning how to use them and how to bring your authentic self to the forefront. And Tree often says this, who do you want to attract, right? Who do you want to bring into your life? So, am I going to talk about Heather, or are you going to talk about Heather?
Oh my goodness. Well, I could talk about Heather
I
because
know you want. I know you want to talk about Heather.
Heather's story is one of my favorite ones. So I remember when Heather came to us. Heather wasn't exactly the person who was shy, of taking the stage. She was actually excited about taking the stage. The thing about Heather, though, Heather just wanted to be able to have a structure that when she took the stage, she won't forget what she was supposed to share. So one of the things that Heather shared with us after coming through Unleash the Power of Your Story speaker training program, she says, one of my biggest fears was forgetting my speech while in front of an audience. Working with Suzanne and Taria, I learned I did not have to memorize my talk. I learned a simple talk structure that gave me the freedom to speak from the heart. When I did my first keynote, I took the stage without using any notes and received an invitation to deliver my dream event. Now, I'm going to share with our super achievers, seeing the words on this slide does not do the experience justice at all. So I was actually in the audience when Heather delivered this keynote, and I'm going to tell you, I was absolutely blown away. Heather took the stage, like she said, for 90 minutes, no notes, and totally had the audience engaged. Now, I'm going to tell you, we worked with Heather. I knew her story. We've seen her practice it many times. But guess what? I was not prepared for what I saw that day. And she's not kidding. Immediately after her presentation, the host of her dream event walked up to her and booked her on the spot for their keynote at the next event. Now, I'm going to tell you that's power in unleashing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So, super achievers, this is what we have covered with you so far. So far, we've shared with you a talk structure that helps you develop the posture and confidence that gets you recognized each and every time you take the stage. We also shared with you storytelling is the secret to capturing and engaging your audience so you walk away with appointment and bookings. Yay! And then thirdly, we shared with you, defining your emotional brand is the best way to speak, attract your divine client and get paid what you are worth. And now I'm going to say that's the biggest part right there, getting paid what you are worth. So if you've made it with us this far, how many of you are ready to take things to the next level?
You, baby.
Yeah, and I know the hands are up, Suzanne. I know they're ready.
They're saying, I'm ready.
I'm ready. So, Suzanne, tell us what we have coming up for them.
Oh my gosh. So this is so much fun. The 5-day freestyle challenge. Yes, this is all about that talk template. 10 steps to give you the posture and confidence to crush any stage. This challenge is so much fun and will get you into action. Want to tell you right up front, it is a video challenge.
Yeah.
It is get into action challenge. It's not a cerebral game. This is do the work, PDR, and have fun. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to receive.
Mm-hmm.
For this challenge, we have taken our freestyle 10-step template and turned it into a little workbook, right? It's a template that will help you build your presentation. So imagine being able to fill things in right there and use the template to build out a talk, a presentation. We want you to know exactly what to do when you take the stage. This is not about memorizing. This is about bringing your authentic, vulnerable self to the stage, but having clues and cues to know exactly what to do. So there's no more reading your PowerPoint. There's no more reading the notes hidden on your hands, right, Sharia? There's no more lengthy notes on stage. You're going to be able to practice a talk structure that has you take the stage confidently because you've practiced, drilled, and rehearsed. Now, I want to talk to you about Gabby because Gabby is an executive assistant. Gabby's not like a public speaker who goes all over the place and speaks, but Gabby wanted to be able to do a great presentation. She wanted to speak. Gabby had been working with Toastmasters for many years. Yet when Gabby took the stage, there was no energy. She didn't come across authentic. There was just something missing. And she seemed nervous and bottled up. What we realized was Gabby just wasn't being her authentic self. I call her queen because she's regal. And I remember the day after Gabby took Unleash the Power of Your Story, I get this call and she's like, Suzanne, I've just been invited to speak at this conference. I don't know what to do. And I said, Gabby, just tell your story. Use the talk template. Well, Gabby practiced. She organized her presentation. And that day, she took the stage without a PowerPoint, without a presentation, told her story, right? And this is what happened. She says, my presentation was so effective that they hired me for the conference the following year. She says, I love freestyle. You see, what happened was the conference organizer came up to her after and said, Gabby, everybody else brought their presentation. You brought your heart, and our audience needed your heart. She brought her authentic, true experience to the table and touched, moved, and inspired the audience. All of that from a 10-step template and the ability to tell her story. So, who's this for, Turia?
So once again, this is for you. If you are that coach, that consultant, that know that you want to speak at companies and conferences, this is for you. If you are a coach that wants to be seen as an expert, it's also for you if you're an author and you have that burning desire inside of you to speak and sell your books. Or like I said, if you're like me, a trainer, and you want your training to be more engaging. And Suzanne, I can't forget about our content creators out there. So this is also for you if you are a content creator and you want to promote your digital products and programs.
Absolutely. So you might be thinking, I get really nervous when I have to do public speaking. Well, Taria, do you get nervous when you have to do public speaking?
All the time. I still do.
I used to get so nervous that I would just like heart racing, sweat running down, head pounding. That's how I started this journey. We all get nervous.
Mhm.
The beautiful thing is when you PDR and you have a talk structure, magic happens. So not only are we going to give you the long version of the talk structure, we are going to give you our one-page cheat sheet. Now, this is really cool because once you've been practicing, you could actually take this one page to the stage, put it on. I like to use a music sheet stand. Just put that one sheet there, and it becomes your one cue card, and it allows you to freely put together your presentation. So these are the 10 steps outlined. This is priceless. We value this at $7.97. And I'll tell you, I can't put a price on this particular template because I use it every time I have to build a presentation, every time I have to build a training, every time I'm building a video. We use this all the
Every time
time.
we write for social media.
Absolutely. Right. And so that is what you're going to get. Um, and then we're going to give you a little bonus that is so cool. We're going to give you the 5-point bio. Tria, tell them a little bit about the power behind this bio, because I know for you, this is huge.
So, oh my gosh. So I know we have our super achievers out there and they probably have experienced this more times that they would care to admit. How many of you have ever had the opportunity to speak, gave the event host or the MC your bio, and they totally butcher your bio? When I say butcher your bio, they read the entire 10 paragraphs that you sent in for your bio. You have big words inside of your bio that they cannot pronounce, and they just totally put the audience to sleep, bore everyone to death before you take the stage. Just say
Sounds like really
energy and buzzkill before you get the stage. Who wants that? So when Suzanne introduced me to this 5-point bio, I was just like, oh my goodness, blessings from above. So this is an easy way for you to give your key points. Yes, give them the key points to your event host, your MC, and have them read it exactly. And what this does, it highlights your top things that you want your audience to know about you, and it keeps them on the edge of their seat while you're waiting to take the stage. This is priceless. This right here is worth the price of admission. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's intentional edification for the talk that you're giving. This is so good. So you're going to get the 10-step freestyle talk template. You're going to get the long version. You're going to get the short version. You are going to get the 5-point bio. We value it at $97. However, it will tee up your talk. It will allow the person who's introducing you to totally edify you. The total value of the package right now is $897, but we are not finished. So you might be thinking, how quickly will I see improvement? Now, remember, we said this is not mental gymnastics. This is not just filling out the worksheet. This is a video challenge. So we provide a private Facebook group. This is your practice community. This is where our super achievers who are serious about taking their speaking to another level practice, drill, and rehearse. This is where they listen to each other's videos. This is where they audit each other's videos. This is where they get feedback. So as you do your videos, we're not going to tell you to go right out on social media and put yourself on Front Street. No, we're going to give you a private space where you get to practice and move from good to great so that when you step out, you feel really good about what you're doing. This community is life-changing for most people because there's nothing like being able to PDR and be in that feedback loop with people who are on similar journeys. So we added the private Facebook group to the package. It's valued at $497. You get to use it for 6 months.
Right.
The value is $1,391. But I'm not sure that we're quite finished. Let me check. Oh, we got someone who wants to say something. So this is Kai Husband. Kai is a project manager and he's the owner of Kittify. Now, Kai is a unique individual. This is like someone that I think is just so special, so talented, and so brilliant. Now, Kai is not a speaker. He presents, but he's not a speaker. He leads teams, but he came to us to learn how to tell stories, to enhance the way he worked with his teams. And one of the things that we found as we were unpacking his stories is what his secret gift was as to why he was such a great project manager. Because Takai learned to use stories, he also learned to be vulnerable. And in doing so, he created this environment where people weren't afraid to take risks, where people weren't afraid to challenge themselves, where people weren't afraid to fail, because he was sharing these beautiful stories. He says, I believe every professional entrepreneur needs this program because they need to learn how to present, they need to know how to engage, and they need to know how to tell powerful transformational stories. So, what did we add to the package? We decided that we were going to add a video audit. So you're going to drop a video every day of the challenge. So 5 days, you're going to drop a video. Your last video, you get to pull it all together and do a presentation. We will take the time to audit that video and give you feedback. We will put you in that feedback loop and we will tell you some things that you will need to do to move from good to great. Now, video audits are priceless. And the reason we add this is when I was learning to speak, I had the privilege of traveling with my coach for about 4 years.
Mhm.
And what would happen is when I took the stage, he would give me one thing to work on. And when I got off the stage, he would tell me I'm only allowed to say positive things about how it went. But then the next day, he would meet with me and he would give me feedback and he would give me one new thing to work on. As I began to speak, my progression was so fast. People were like, what are you doing? And how is this happening? Well, I got the privilege of living in this continual feedback loop, but also PDRing with intention. Remember, each time he gave me one thing to work on, it moved me from good to great at rapid speeds. So what's the video audit worth? Well, the video audit is also worth $497. The value of this package is $1,888. It is a beautiful package. This is your 5-day challenge. This is your freestyle challenge. Now, why is this key? Because first of all, in order to get in that feedback loop with my coach, I had to get on a plane and go to a different city, the city that he was speaking at or I was helping him train at month after month for 4 years. That was money. I also had to invest in learning to speak. So I learned to learn many of the things that we're talking about here. The template, priceless, and it cost. We're giving you access to this for next to nothing. Why? Because we're in a time where you have to be the presenter. You have to be a trainer. You have to be a speaker. Not that you want to be on big stages, but every time you stand up and present your business, you want to be able to do it powerfully. So we're taking all the time that and knowledge that's in our head and all the investments that we've had, and we're giving you a little piece of that in this 5-day challenge. And that's why we're inviting you to participate.
Mhm.
So Tria, share that with them what's available to them.
Wow. So if all this package did was teach you a talk template that grounds you and gives you confidence to begin speaking on live and virtual stages, would it be worth it for you? Yeah. And if all it did was teach you how to write an irresistible bio that builds your credibility, would it be worth it? And I'm shaking my head saying yes, because it was worth it for me. And if all it did was provide you with a process that always have you take the stage and be camera ready, would it be worth it? And I'm going to say yes, because Suzanne, we're, like we said, we're not just talking about live stages and the opportunities to go out and speak. We're talking about the ability to create your own stage. So we're in the digital world, we have opportunities at our fingertips. So just imagine whenever you want to bring awareness to your brand, your business, your products and services, it's just as easy as flipping on your camera. And this is the secret sauce to do it correctly. So how much would that be worth to you?
And Tria, even when you go into a boardroom and you're in a meeting and someone asks you a question, I always tell people we're always auditioning. How
Mhm.
you handle yourself, how you answer that question, how you present is key. So the world is a stage nowadays, and we want you to always be camera ready, always be stage ready, always be presentation ready. So we had two choices as we put together this package, and as we built out this 5-day challenge. Tree and I bantered and we talked about it, and we were like, okay, so what would the end result be worth to you? So we know the value is $1,888. That's what we know the value is. But the question we want to ask you is to think of a number. What would it be worth for you? What would you be willing to invest in order to get all this skills, talent, and information to be able to put yourself in the best light whenever you take the stage or stand up to speak? So let me just give you a recap of what you're going to get. So you're going to get the 10-step freestyle talk template. That's $7.97. You're going to get the 5-point bio. That's $97. You're going to get the private members own Facebook group. I think that's priceless, but we valued it at $4.97. And then you're going to get us to audit your video, an audit done by our team, $4.97. Total value is $1,888. That is our 5-day freestyle challenge, 10 steps to give you the posture and confidence to crush any stage. This is the 10-step talk template. So one of the things we said was we wanted to make it so that everyone could do this. So we said, you know what? Let's give it to them at $4.97.
That's a
Right?
steal of a deal right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because you notice the price dropped. So we decided that we were going to do that. But then, I shouldn't be talking to you. We should not get in these meetings and talk to you, because then we got into a meeting and we said, let's just do something really crazy. Let's just make this challenge an introduction to our work and what is possible. Let's blow their minds. So we decided that we were going to make this available to you for $47. Man, that's like just a few dollars a day.
Yeah.
And you're going to get 5 days. And then after the 5 days, you're going to get your video audited. That's what we wanted to do for you. $4.97, $47. That's the price that's available. So we made our choice. As we said, $47. Priceless, really. Now you have to make your choice. You can do nothing. And I don't know how your presentations are right now, but you can turn your presentation up and put it on blast and move from good to great. So you can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can take a leap of faith and watch the magic happens. We know that for everybody that's taken a leap of faith, their presentations have gone through the roof. And we know that presentation skills is the number one skill that people say that changed their business. To be able to powerfully communicate their ideas and why their business exists. We're also going to give you a satisfaction guarantee, right? As long as you do the work, we'll work with you. So enjoy this challenge. It is going to be priceless. So this is the thing. Value at $1,888. Available to you for $47. That's a steal. We're giving you huge value for a small investment. You now get to choose, right? So to get started, you just got to say yes. You got to go to the 10-step challenge page and just say yes and begin that registration process. 10stepchallenge.com. Now, I'm going to tell you, freestyle 10-step template valued at $7.97, 5-point bio, $97, private members only Facebook group, $497, one video audit, $497. You're getting that full package, value $1,888, $97 for you today. All you have to do is say yes. So the real question that we have for you is, are you ready? Are you ready? Because this training's not for everyone. Because we know that there's people that are going to go, what? I have to open my camera? I have to post a video? I don't care if it's in the private practice group. But it's for those of you who are ready to move from good to great. It's those of you that are so committed to being a great presenter that you're saying, I'm going to be willing to go on the journey.
Right.
So you have to say yes to taking action rather than just consuming information. You want to say yes to giving up your need to be perfect and any excuses that you're accustomed to giving yourself. You've got to say yes to risking being vulnerable because you know that there are people out there that are waiting for you. And you got to say yes to being challenged and having fun, and for more fun. You don't have to do this journey alone. We're going to be with you all along the way. Join our community. We're here to help you every step of the way. So this is what we're going to leave you with. The 5-day freestyle challenge. It's an opportunity to learn the 10 steps to give you the posture and confidence to crush any and every stage, to always be camera ready. And it is here for you at $47. Just go on over to the 10stepchallenge.com and register. Say yes to your presentation skills. Say yes to taking the stage and say yes to putting your social media on blast.
Yes. Absolutely love it. And we are looking forward to seeing each and every one of you inside the challenge.